Herod has put John the Baptist in prison. Why? Well, Josephus, who wrote a book called, well, a series of writings which we call Antiquities, which is like the first history book of its type ever written, in his book on the history of this period, he says, King Herod put John the Baptist in prison because Herod was afraid of him. So Herod is now ruling out of fear. And this is the worst place to make decisions from. A few years ago, last year, I went to spend 2 days with a man who was 104 years old. He passed away a couple of months ago, and when I return back home after this trip, one of the first things I'll be doing is going to visit his widow. The reason I wanted to spend 2 days with him is for almost 50 years, he was the personal confidant to 6 successive US presidents and their cabinet. So for 6 successive administrations, he was the one they could personally confide in about their struggles, about their wrestles. And such was his integrity and trustworthiness. Every successive president recommended him to their successor, regardless of party. And he was the one who walked with them. As a matter of fact, he played a very similar role to some of the major governments here in Asia as well. And so when I heard this, I remember thinking, I want to spend some time with you. I would like to learn from you. And one of the questions I asked him was, I said, when you're with these rulers of countries, or maybe with members of their cabinet, and they're wrestling and struggling, what are some of the questions that you would ask them to help them? The first question he gave me was amazing. He said, well, many times they would be stuck in making a very important decision for their country, and they just couldn't see a way through. And so he would ask them, what are you afraid of? That's the question he would ask them. If you make this decision, what are you afraid of? And then they could name their fears. Well, if I make the decision, I'm afraid of this, this, and this. If I don't make the decision, I'm afraid of this, this, and this. But at least they now know what is driving them. And it will become a catalyst then for them to think it through well and hopefully make a good decision. We cannot be driven by fear when making critical decisions. But Herod is driven by fear.